Hello, you all. Welcome to a new session of Fandoms with RAKStar. Happy to be once again here, like every Friday, with all of you. And I hope that everyone is having a great Friday so far. In case this is your first time joining to our session, a warm welcome to all of you. And we are super happy to have new members of the community joining every day. And just like a quick summary before I start, this is a friendly community space where we share with passionate rockstars to talk about their experiences, their hacks, and some cool projects they are working on. I am Maria Hernandez, Developer Relation Lead at RAK Wireless, and today with me, like every Friday, I am with Jose Marcelino.
Hi, everyone.
And also, before introduces our guest today, I would like to also highlight that if you are here during the live session, feel free to ask any question you may have. And I will keep an eye on the chat every time a question pops up or during the Q&A session that will be have at the end of the session. In addition, I encourage you to all of you to stay tuned and ask interesting question to our guest first because our guest has many things to share with all of you, and secondly because we are going to be giving away some rack swag between all of those who ask question at the end of the session. So that's all for the introduction. And in today's session, we are going to be chatting with a passionate entrepreneur dedicated to making life easier to electrical engineers like himself when developing IoT applications. He is an individual with more than 10 years on hand-on experience with IoT projects, including building a global IoT startup with thousands of users worldwide, Ubidots. Maybe some of you already know it. And he will sharing his thought about the IoT ecosystem and some tips and tricks for those IoT entrepreneurs. So, Agustin, welcome.
Hi. Hey, Maria and Jose, and thank you very much for the invitation. And hello to all of our audience who is tuning in right now.
Welcome.
Welcome. We are super excited to have you here and just like to start and to break the ice and also to get a little bit more better. Let's talk first about you. So can you share more about your background, your education, and how and when did you start tinkering with IoT projects?
Of course. Ari, so I'm Agustin, father of Amelia, and soon father of Luciana as well. So yeah, I'm based in Medellin, Colombia. That's where I'm originally from. That's why you sense an accent there. And even though our community is global, and now with the remote work, also our team is becoming more global. We were born in down here. I'm always been. I like to think of my journey as a maker. Since I was a kid doing short circuits at home, my mom had to be careful. Like, hey, what are you doing? You're going to burn like an outlet, electricity, whatever. And I think that creative passion grew inside me to then go to pursue an electrical engineering degree. And then with that degree, I was able to get some hands-on experience at Airbus in Germany, where I spent a few years. Then back in Medellin at a consultancy which got me closer into software development. It was like a boutique consultancy around technology, and ultimately led me to create, together with an amazing team, what is now Ubidots.
Amazing.
Sorry, I wasn't mute. So you say that you started like since you was like a kid breaking things and tinkering with electronic things, but which was like the first IoT project that you work on?
Okay, that's a cool one. So it's very tied to the history of Ubidots because maybe during university I did a lot of things that today could be seen as an IoT project, but strictly speaking, a project that was connected to Ubidots was when we first launched. So we applied to an accelerator in Boston, and that's where we had kind of this first experience of actually, we were doing a lot of services down here in Colombia, a lot of end-to-end IoT projects. And when we got into the accelerator was this challenge of how do we turn a services business that works on a per project basis to a product-led organization, what is called a startup. So we launched in Boston, and the day we launched, we had a meetup, and I took this box with a small hole and a motion sensor inside, connected to a Raspberry Pi, and I placed it at the entrance of the event so that every time somebody would step in, I would increase a counter in Ubidots. And then at the end of the event, I didn't tell anyone, but at the end of the presentation, I say, and by the way, here's a graph of all of the attendance monitoring during, I can see if you got in late or not. So it was a very nice project, and I documented it, and actually it now became, like if you Google people counter Raspberry Pi, even without the Ubidots keyword, it will show up as the first result, because it became kind of the main source of organic traffic for a lot of time, and hence a lot of users. So yeah, that was a cool one.
That is amazing. And you mentioned that you started working like alongside with acceleration in Boston, but I am curious that like as a founder of a global product with the made in Colombia stamp, which is awesome. What are your thoughts about like the development roadmap for IoT development technologies here in Colombia? Like, do you think there is growing during the past years?
Yeah, I think, by the way, I'm wearing a J Balvin t-shirt today. I thought I'd do something local to put like a local touch. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I got into IoT because of one thing, and that is opportunity. So never before there has been like a time in our recent history where you could mash up so much stuff together, devices, APIs, visualizations. It's a lot of things that even 5 years ago was not as abundant and as inexpensive as it is right now. So if you look at the development of startups and technology companies in the main hubs like Silicon Valley, Berlin, Barcelona, UK, you will see that these large companies were born with every major technology trend. So from mainframes in the 70s, personal computing in the 80s, internet in the 90s. So with every wave, you see kind of a momentum of innovation. And with every wave, this innovation is more democratized. So now you see, let's talk about mobile. You see application developers from all around the world creating completely viable companies because of this enablement layer, which was at the time mobile development. So with IoT, I kind of see the same trend. We are in the rise of a wave of so many opportunities that ultimately led us to think that, well, IoT entrepreneurship doesn't have to happen in the major tech hubs. It could also happen in intermediate cities, in non-typical countries, speaking of tech. And in doing that ourselves, we're also proving that this is possible. If we do it from Medellin, Colombia, then why not doing it from any other corner in the world?
Well, you guys have better coffee, right? So that helps.
It helps a lot, for development.
Cheers.
More productive. So yeah, I think we have a head start there.
Exactly.
Super. And what do you think was like that key factor that helped Ubidots to become like a player in the international market?
I think I would lie if I knew exactly like a formula. I think there's no formula to entrepreneurship. I think it's something that is done one day at a time. You wake up, you do what you have to do that day, and then you continue the next one. So it's really one foot after the other. So if I had to pinpoint to like a specific thing in Ubidots, I think it's when you create a product, you have to decide sort of the attributes of the product and the company. If you're a product-led company, then your culture is your product and your product is your culture. So it's very intertwined. In our case, that was ease of use. So all of the tools, all of the decisions we make, we kind of make a checklist, like if is this really going to help our users do more with less, do more in less time, and if it's flexible enough and easy to use enough. On the other side is support. So we always try to scale our support team at a nice pace so that the average response time is low enough for our community to perceive a good service. So we chose to excel at those two things. There's 1,000 things you could excel at if you choose to, but time and resources are limited. So I think having chosen those couple of things, and any team can choose any other set of different things, but we stick to that, and I think that's resonating.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. And like we're talking about Ubidots, but maybe some people that are connected doesn't know what is Ubidots. So
Yeah.
can you share us like a little bit deeper about like an overview about what Ubidots offers and what are the advantages that this platform offers in comparison with other ones, for example?
Of course. So we got into IoT as hardware engineers ourselves, hacking projects together. And in that process, we thought how cool it would be if we didn't have to repeat the same, to reinvent the wheel over and over. We found ourselves kind of doing the same things from one project to the other. And we thought, how cool would it be if there was a place where we could find like all the pre-built things that are common to all IoT projects, like backend things from device-friendly APIs, reliable time series storage, being able to query statistical things through the API, and then in the front end side, also being able to trigger alerts. We'll do a demo in a while, I guess, but friendly visualizations and user management. So all of these things that are common to all IoT projects. So Ubidots at the end is this hub where you find the common things that you will need to reduce your time to market and even create an entire IoT business from scratch without having to have a software team.
Perfect. And what would you say that it is possible like for Ubidot to persevere in this competitive market of IoT platforms? Because right now we can see like many options right there, like private ones, one that are private but have some STEM access, or other ones that are open source.
Yeah. So first off, I think there's a lot of dynamics in many different markets. One of them is the winner takes it all, and that happens a lot in two-sided markets where you have like demand and offer. Like the marketplace, like e-commerce. It's very common to this. I think IoT is a market that is more niche. Like it behaves more like a fragmented market without a winner takes it all dynamic. And that's very good news for all of us because it paves the way for collaboration as opposed to a highly competitive one where you do like bad practices or those kind of things. I think we see it at the conferences. We collaborate, we trade notes, and that's a very good environment to be at. I think for Ubidots specifically, there's like a sub market. If you think about IoT platforms, it's really kind of three categories. You have kind of device management, connectivity management, and then application enablement. So what seems to be a large market, now you split it into three. And now if you zoom into the application enablement, then you will see like amazing players like Lozant, who gets compared a lot with us, but they are championing a more enterprise play, which I respect and admire a lot. Then some of us are more focused on the 10 to 1,000 devices range, and I'm sure there will be other players in kind of a rather mid market. So I think it's a market for all.
So basically, like Ubidots offer a platform for developers to create their own IoT applications, in summary.
Yes.
And based on this, how do you think that the projects that are created on Ubidots, like by the community members, contribute to the resolution of global challenges?
Okay, it's very hard to pinpoint like a large specific project. As I said, we are kind of in the long tail of IoT. Smaller projects that compounded again and again create like a strong efficiency around water or energy or something very tangible at the end. So there's a very cool story. We were making some changes in the platform like a month ago, and a father reached out to us saying, "Hey, my deployment stopped working. Can you help? It's very important because I promised my daughter that we will carry on these projects through the end." And at the end, what they were doing with between a 12-year-old and her dad was a system to monitor the tank levels of the water tanks within a community in the US that relies on that water supply. And they have some volunteers to monitor the tank. So if a tank begins to be emptied at 3 a.m. in the morning, it could be emptied in an hour, so they won't realize it. And the next day, the community won't have any drinkable water. So it's this kind of smaller things, this day was, and they are a free user. So it's like some personal use case at the end. And yet it creates so much value for an entire community that we didn't know about, and it surfaced because of that support ticket. So when I look at the whole user base, our newsletter reaches now 100,000 users, and you multiply that times these smaller gains, I like to think that we are indeed doing an impact.
Definitely. And like with thousands of users worldwide, as you mentioned, like you have like tons of subscribers on Ubidot's newsletter. You have seen like many projects since their beginnings, like from many IoT entrepreneurs around the world building project from scratch, because Ubidots is right there for those entrepreneurs. Can you share us like some success story from one of those that you have the privilege to witness in Ubidots?
Yeah, it's funny because in some cases they are, as a company, they become larger than we are, when we first met. So
That's
it's
good.
like,
That's good.
That
it,
is awesome.
yeah. So Pablo Vargas, I don't know if he's listening to this. He's in Argentina. We've corresponded for probably 3 to 4 years now since he began. He sent me the first invoice of his company, like, "Hey, this is what I'm charging in Argentinian pesos, so please don't charge me more, per device per month." So we developed like this relationship where he was giving a lot of feedback, and now his company, DataSense, is, as I said, larger than us, at least in headcount. And yeah, it's very nice. They're doing refrigerator monitoring for healthcare. So even now with this whole vaccines, cold chain monitoring because of the COVID, they are like a strong player in Argentina, ensuring that these vaccines reach the right populations at the right temperature. So when I read that, and I'm like, wow, Pablo, way to go, and thank you for all your feedback. And I'm sure there's a ton of these use cases. We hope to see even more.
Super nice. And now that you mentioned like COVID-19, like due to that, we can notice like a growth in the development of new technologies like related with monitoring processes. Were you able to observe like this growth in the number of applications deployed in the platform during the past year?
So I think indeed it helped. So it was kind of the brighter sides when you look at how the world became. At least some optimism we could draw from there, because in absence of physical presence, a lot of industries were relying on technology to supervise and to monitor their processes. So agriculture was one. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we called like a lot of customers asking, hey, I know the dollar just became very strong in Argentina or in Mexico, even in Australia. They had a currency issue there, and we were providing discounts, and a lot of the times we were surprised to hear that their businesses were actually growing more because their customers were asking for more sensors, more devices, more tools to monitor things out in the field. So it was good for them, I guess. For us, it was like a 50-50. We grew in some cases. In other cases, there were supply chain issues because they source components from Asia, for example, and therefore they could not deploy a fleet, and they canceled the license. So for us, it was like a 50-50, but I think in general, it was it's like a driver for the market.
Perfect. And not just like taking like in account like the past year, which is the vertical that you have identified as the most relevant right now on the platform?
The use case, you mean,
So like the IoT industry, like the vertical, like agriculture,
okay.
manufacturing, healthcare.
Yeah, so it's funny because we surveyed our users only to find that we put like a multi-industry option,
Okay.
and a good portion chose that they are in the multi-industry. So
Okay.
we
That
were
means that they are like providing solution for different verticals,
like
right?
they come up with a temperature sensor,
Yeah.
or just a generic sensor that you can plug different types of sensors to it. And then they sell it to mining, they sell it in agriculture, they
Yeah.
sell it in the industrial. But
Interesting.
another set of users did report that they are in different verticals. So for us, that would be healthcare, manufacturing, like smart manufacturing, energy/water management. So
Cool. Perfect. So that means that everyone who wants to build like an entire IoT business, no matter the vertical that they are applying to it, they can easily do it, for example, using rack with log sensors, temperature humidity sensors, for example, and put it alongside with Ubidots and can build like a whole business behind all of that. Amazing. And do you have like any particular advice for those IoT entrepreneurs who are just in their early stages of their projects, or maybe any tips and tricks for them?
yeah, so building upon our experience, I think scratch your niche is the first one. So if you choose to solve a problem, ideally that problem should be a problem that you already had. Like we saw the need for doing an IoT platform. Maybe if you are working in the agricultural industry and you find that as an agricultural manager or as the IT department within a farming business, you have a need, then try to solve it yourself, and then you can quit later and build a business. But yeah, try looking for a problem that you had before. Talk to a lot of people, and then only after you have a prototype with rack, of course, and only after you have talked to at least 50 to 100 people, depending on the whether you are chasing like a long tail market or a specialized one. Only after you've confirmed your hypothesis verbally or even through a pilot with a lot of people, then quit, but not before. I mean, that's how I think it mitigates the risk a little bit.
Nice, nice.
But what can I ask? What who
Sorry,
are your users? Are they typically developers? Can you?
do,
Hello?
do you hear the question? Well, I couldn't hear.
Cut out a little bit. Let me rephrase. You mean like what's the typical profile
User
of
of your platform? Yes. Is it
Okay.
a developer or is it a person who is involved in the field in some way and then wants a solution for?
Yeah, that's a great question because some people tend to think that we sell the Ubidots platform to end users, but the reality is that our business model is a platform for developers. So at the end, all of our customers, so now in the industrial side, they are system integration businesses or IoT entrepreneurs or OEMs. that develop some type of hardware, and then they pay us, depending on the plan, let's say $1 per month. But then they encompass the hardware to cloud support and all of their value offer into a final solution that then they go on to sell to an end customer at 10, 20, $30 per month, depending on the vertical. So yeah, that's a very important one because it's also a good thing of our business model. You know, we're not competing with our channel. We're giving you as a developers the tools to create your own IoT application.
Nice.
Thank you.
Super. And what about RAK? Like, where did you first hear about us?
I was thinking about that before the call. I think I met your CEO at the Things conference in 2019, probably, or 18. Yeah, so I think I even have his card around. And then after this, you kind of created a brand, like a very strong brand through social media. We did, I think you even published some tutorial about Ubidots at some point, completely organically. And then I attended a workshop again at the Things conference, where we played with one of the Raspberry Pi based gateways. I still have a couple of them at home, providing the Things network coverage for around my neighborhood. And yeah, that's how I came to know you guys, and now through you too.
Nice. And do you have like any particular like rack device that you will recommend to the Ubidots community members?
Yes, so I really like the Wiz block because we used it for our demo at the Things conference, and since then we just left it plugged in. Excellent battery life, small form factor, and it's something that it's kind of in the middle between an Arduino friendly device that can be hacked by somebody who is not an expert like myself. Like I try to download everything and follow the guides myself without asking Maria or and I did it. So if I did it, then a lot of people can do it. And then it's also, it doesn't stay there. So it's a device that I feel that you can actually, put it in an enclosure and start selling a service. So it's really something that you can leave running for years, because that's how it was designed. So I think it's a good mix between simplicity and power.
Yeah, I think like one
Excellent.
thing that I would like to highlight here is that in some way, Ubidots is like putting the blogs out there for the community members to put all together and be like a software platform, like all the software side of their IoT applications. And RAK is like covering the same thing, but in the hardware layer. Like we are putting multiple blocks together that allows you to deploy IoT solutions, no matter the vertical you are applying to it, because the Whistle provide like multiple modules, either for like environmental applications, GPS application, and either one of the most important ones are the industrial models, like most like before when we wanted to enter like the manufacturing or industrial sector, you always have to look like for industrial converters that are expensive, for example. And right now you have like a really tiny module that allows you to connect, for example, 40 to 20 million per sensors in a very quickly and easy way, and it allows you provide you the power serve to those sensors because normally like these development boards allows you 5 volts input for their sensors, but this model convert the 5 volt input to 12 volts, so it's pretty plug and play. So no matter the industry you're applying to it, you're able to integrate it, make like a first a proof of concept, and then as you mentioned, after you discover that your hypothesis is the right one, you can just like call us and say, hey Rag, I need 100, 200, 1000 Wislog with this
Okay.
specific sensor, and they'll say that you need something like customized like casing. We can also like help you with that. And like other cool thing that I would like to highlight as well, it is that we 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 think also like in the Whisper as a tool that allows to IoT entrepreneurs to get started quickly with the hardware in a solid way, and also like reducing the time to market the same way that Ubidots is doing it right now, and also super important tool for education purposes as well. Let's say that someone wants to start tinkering with IoT technology in their communities or on their schools or specific social enterprise programs. They can easily like reach out to us and create like a custom kit with us, fully branded. Actually, we launched one with Helium that you are also like launch an integration yesterday. And it's a full of custom kit that allows to developers to create their own solutions in an easy way. Just to talk a little bit more about like this.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because at the end, we're trying to reduce the software team footprint within industries and well, system integrators and IoT entrepreneurs, and then and you also from on your side you are reducing the footprint and the need to have like a large team of hardware engineering because as you said, once I figure out my ideal application with a WIS block, I can call rack, and then you take care of scaling that in the thousands of units range. Very cool.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And well, as you may know, like IoT made easy is the motto that
Oh,
drives that drive Rag Wireless crew. And this is something that the RAKStar community highlights every time that a new product is announced. Just as you say, like you took the Wizblog, went to our documentation site, start following all the processes, and then you make it work in a pretty easy way. However, like making Internet of Things easy from hardware to the application layer may not like a very easy thing to do.
mm.
So when you hear the phrase like make IoT easy, what are the associations that come to your mind? Like what potential problems and solutions do you envision to this phrase?
I think it goes a lot along the lines that I mentioned. Opportunity
Mhm.
is everywhere you look. I mean, if you look around, and you don't have to create $1 billion business. There, believe me, there are more $10 million opportunities out there than $1 billion ones. And if you look around your city, it doesn't have to be a large city. We've seen IoT entrepreneurs in smaller and smaller towns, and yet they look around and they might see, all the uh, bakeries need to control the humidity in the kitchen, just to say an example, because of the quality. Uh, right now, they do it offline, and I'm just going to go to the 100 bakeries in my city, and I'm going to make a business plan to get 20 of them and sell a couple of sensors to each at $10 per month. So I think the keyword there is just opportunity, and don't be afraid to try stuff during the weekends and pitch a few clients. The worst thing that could happen is that they say no, and that you learned in the process.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's the mind blowing thing. I mean, in
Yeah,
IoT, there are so many things out there that are just done by hand at the moment, which can be automated, and no one is doing them. So yeah, that's a great thought. Can I ask one question though? I mean, maybe the biggest question in IoT is what kind of connection technology should I use for my project? Is it and now there's like Cellular, LoRa, Sigfox. Do you have any idea of what are your clients using for that?
Yeah, so that is going to be very very interesting to see how this all unfolds. We are in a very dynamic market, so let's see what happens. I don't have an ultimate word for that, and it's part of the cool thing in being in IoT is maybe 3 years from now we'll look back and we'll laugh about something crazy that we forecasted. but like it's already happens with the amount of billion devices connected. But yeah, I think we are connectivity agnostic, which I think you are as well. But we do see, more of one or the other. LP1 clearly is a great way to have like smaller power, like less power consumption, small form factor, and then price with quality, right? So I think it really depends on the type of project. Maria just mentioned industrial projects. So we still see a lot of Wi-Fi there. So sometimes it doesn't have to be the entire factory. Maybe they just put a Wi-Fi hotspot and an IoT gateway that's connected through Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and that does the job. Now, when you want more granularity, like smaller devices and in more equipment, for example, then it makes sense to use something like LoRaWAN. And I'm a strong believer in LoRaWAN. I still want to see, of course, what happens with cellular IoT. I think we're all sitting and waiting, and also, creating some projects to see. We have a lot of cellular right now, but not as much cellular IoT, which would be NB-IoT and LTE-M. So I wrote a piece December last year in our blog, like sort of the forecast for this year. I said it could be the year of cellular IoT. So maybe we'll do this same episode in 1 year and see what happens, what actually happened.
Yeah.
Super. And like I think like we cover like a little bit more Ubidots about like your experiences and some tips and tricks as well for those IoT entrepreneurs. So I think we can jump to our demo session. But before jumping to the demo session, I would like to know a little bit more about like the long terms on the company, upcoming projects, maybe some latest integrations that you have released, or maybe something secret that you have been working on during the past month.
Okay, we'll show you a bit of that right now. So in terms of product, we're very excited about the Ubidots plugins. We soft launched like 5 months ago. It was only available to paid users. And then a month ago at the Things conference, we announced we were opening it up to all of our free users as well, as a way to ease the connection with LoRaWAN platforms like Helium, like the Things stack. So very excited about that, because it's not just a way to mix data or to bring data from other platforms. It's also a way to bring data from external APIs. There's a lot of satellite data that's being measured like once per day. Soil moisture, for instance, rain, a lot of variables that are sitting in 12 gigabyte data sets at some governmental agencies that somebody needs to download, decode, and then insert in a database. So right now, with plugins, it's a great way to extract data from all of those sources. Open Weather API, we're working on an ambient weather integration. We're working on soil moisture satellite data integration. So this is exciting because it will give our user base and our IoT entrepreneurs, customers, to enrich their applications with data from sources and not limit to actual physical sensors. So, and we'll see that in a bit. I mean, I can jump in now if you want, unless we have more questions.
Nice. I have one question. Like, which platform are you using for the satellite communication? Like Unispace?
No, so for satellite APIs, satellite data, there's a few players out there. There's one called Stormglass, which has a lot of ocean data. There's ClimaCell. So it's a lot of API providers that already do the hard job of getting that data from governmental agencies and putting it into our API. The only difference with doing it with Ubidots is you don't have to have like 10 different accounts in 10 different players. Like you will all be at 3 clicks away from the Ubidots UI.
Perfect. Okay, I wanted to ask you something about like the analytical side, but I think you can show us a little bit more about that during the demo, if that is okay for you.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Perfect. Sure. Okay, give me a
Okay.
second. Add to the screen. Here we are.
Okay. So for those of you who were not familiar with Ubidots, so this is how it all starts, with your actual devices. We could take hours in an Ubidots demo, so I'll just go straight to showing how a device looks like. In this case, we have a whisk block with the environmental monitoring sensors. We can see gas, humidity, pressure, temperature, of course, and then more variables related to the actual RSSI, like signal attributes of the hotspots that are perceiving that signal. So one of the cool things about this is we're using Helium in this case. You can see here, this is the data plugins model I was talking about. Here you can see different web sources about rivers, weather, agricultural APIs like soil moisture, etc. And you see one of them is Helium. So we actually now have like a pre-built integration. We actually announced it yesterday. So it's fresh new. And what it allows you to do is to receive data from Helium through a private URL and decode it at will using the power of Python. So again, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not a developer, but I was able to go through like Python documentation, understand how to decode, in this case, your data frame. And you see, it's a very simple code. And the most important one is a code that you can edit and then just save, and then that's just gonna change the payload if you want. So if you look at Helium, now they have actually like a pre-built integration. So all you have to enter is your Ubidots token, and you click here, and then it will automatically provision that Ubidots, that Helium plugin for you, so you can start sending data from Helium in this case. So that I'm very excited about that. We're getting like a good feedback, and of course every suggestion is welcome. I can see here in the logs that we're actually receiving data as we speak. So here is the result of that decoding function. And if I go to my devices, as you saw earlier, you can see that it's a few seconds ago. So yeah, it's actual data that we're receiving through Helium. I can talk about dashboards and alerts, unless you have a question thus far.
No, actually, we have a question here regarding like Ubi functions, but we can leave that for the Q&A session. So keep
Awesome.
going.
So moving on to dashboards, again, we could spend hours in doing all of this, reviewing all of these models. But I created like a simple one with some basic data from our office. So I'm going to jump and create a new line chart in this case. I select the WizBlock device. Let's track humidity and temperature. And I can add multiple axes and change the names, units, etc. Let's just give it like a range between 20 and 100. And there you go. I just created like a live temperature/humidity widget. And you can choose from many different widgets, by the way, and you can even code your own. So we have this HTML widget that allows you to put your own JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So you can actually code your own widget here. Moving on to events, Mari, I created an event before that will ring your phone when the temperature is rising. If you allow me to do a quick demo about that, you will see here under events that I already followed this process, but just so you know how simple it is, you select a variable, in this case, the temperature. If it's greater than, let's say, 30 degrees, then you can select a bunch of different options So I clicked on a voice call, selected the voice, a language, and a message. So let's give it a try.
Perfect. Let's
Cool.
see.
So I'm gonna go, since we don't have, it's not 30 degrees right now. It's 24. I'm going to do like a small trick here to simulate data using a slider widget. So I'm going to select the temperature variable again. And there I just created like a manual widget to send data. So I'm going to send 60, well, that's a lot. And now it's back. Well, there you go.
Okay, let me answer the call.
Does it talk as well or what?
Yeah.
Hey, Maria, it's getting hot here.
Nice.
Here. Yeah, so that's how simple it is. You know, you can do a lot of different stuff. The limits are really your creativity. So yeah, I think that's as far as events, widgets, and there are more things to it. But let's maybe open it up for questions.
Perfect. We have here a question from Everett. Can you tell more about Ubi functions? How does that work?
Of course, Everett, thanks a lot for that question. I'm a big fan of this model. What we saw ourselves, I'm going to tell you this whole story. We saw ourselves doing a lot of decoders and a lot of customized servers functions. So we had to charge our customers. You know, we deployed this server, and now they have, for example, a GPS tracking device that they needed us to decode, and so then we could then insert the data into Ubidots in our JSON-friendly format. So we, instead of doing like a per project requirements, we said, okay, let's give that power to our users. So we created these Ubi functions, which is really like a wrapper around an Amazon Lambda or an IBM functions. We simplified a lot of things so that at a single click, you can create your own API. So you create your own API, it gives you said whether you want it to be a GET or a POST request. You choose whether you want to develop in Node.js or Python. And then using the power of these programming languages, you can code yourself like 40 or 50 line scripts to decode data coming from other sources like LoRaWAN network servers, Sigfox, etc. Now, that evolved when our customers began using it more and more. They were like, okay, can you add the NumPy library to the Python runtime? I'm like, why would you want the NumPy library? Well, I'm pulling data every 5 minutes from my own Ubidots deployment, so the data that's already stored, and I'm doing fast Fourier transformation. We said, okay, that's very cool. So let's bake that library into Ubi functions. So it's growing more and more and giving you more power to not only decode data frames, but also run analytics that run every X amount of minutes. So.
Super nice. And now that you mentioned like analytic and those stuff, what about the features that it will have to offer for like, I don't know, machine learning processes and all those analytic things, or AI, for example? There is something that you offer for that?
Yes. So now with plugins, we are adding like, for example, I mean, we have the power now to add like any other library, and so we could, in theory, create a plugin tomorrow that says,
Okay.
let's do anomaly detection, or let's do time series forecasting. We'll even open up plugins to the community. So developers will be able to code plugins that other developers can use in their IoT deployments. That's going to be a very exciting step once we make it. And then we also have some native models that are rather descriptive analytics still, where you can upload a data set. You can generate PDF reports that correlate data with one another. So yeah, that's coming. It's yet still nascent, but it will get better with time.
Nice. Keep us posted to see what we can do with the Wizbot.
Yes, yes. Travis.
Actually, I have one of our members of the team asked me about like that model, and he was like tinkering a little bit of it to see how we can quickly integrate with Block in a easy way with Ubidots as well. Let's see. Other question. This is something that I already shared from Travis. Just a note. I thought he'd share a good mix between simplicity and power. He like that.
He's
Thanks,
doing
Travis.
our marketing.
Also, we have other comment from Manuel. I confess that I have to take a time to test Ubidots, stop the hardware development, and go to the software. um, Nice. Other things. Okay. Okay, we have here. There is an Ubidot app that I can use in my phone to see dashboard devices, etc.
Yes, yes, Manuel. Thank you for that. It's an oldie, to be honest. So we have to give it some love. We are already, I mean, not working on it, but we have plans this year to upgrade the application. But right now there is one in the marketplace. You can go to Ubidots. It's called Ubidots Explorer. We just need to give it some love in terms of design, but it works. It's functional. You can see your dashboards, your devices, and the historical log of your events.
Nice. Also, we have another question from Travis. I think this is related to the plugins, and this will be in Python.
Yes, so the cool thing about the plugins is that we are free to expose like a portion of the code so that, as we saw in the Helium plugin case, you can decode at will. So for example, let's say you have a deployment in Helium and you're sending data to Ubidots with the new plugin, and you want to use NumPy, the NumPy library, to do a specific transformation, get the averages or max means, etc., then yes, you can do it with the power of Python. That's the cool thing about Python. For some reason, in LoRaWAN, we're mostly used to Node.js. I'm also a
Yeah.
big fan of Node.js, but we run like a quick survey, like within like closer users, and the hardware engineers seem to be more proficient in Python than in Node.js. So yes, we exposed the Helium
Nice.
plugin in Python in this case. Let's see how it goes. I personally love that simplicity and power. Thanks, Travis.
Super. We have another one from Phil Tran. Will the web interface be mobile friendly too? This is with other question that say, well, comment. I know one competitor that lets you make mobile specific dashboards.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. So it's like 90% of our paid users are using us through web. So it could be a cause or a consequence, but we try to stick to that to continue strengthening the website. The mobile strategy is right now revamping our existing mobile application, as opposed to focusing on making the interface more mobile friendly. You know, right now it's responsive. I mean, you can see it's responsive, but I agree it could be even better. So yeah, it's hard to pinpoint like an ETA to that, Phil, but we're working on that.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. So, and we don't have like more. I am in the main one. I shouldn't be in the main one. We don't have any more question on the comments. If anyone has any additional question that wants to leave, please leave it in the comment section. For now, I will jump on one. So, as a passionate entrepreneur, as you are, and also co-founder of Ubidots, have you ever considered starting a company in the on the hardware side? Maybe I don't know. Quizlet can help to build like a hardware product.
Yeah, maybe someday. I think I'm going to steal a quote that I heard at a conference last year. Well, not in 2019 already. It was, if I had $1 million, I would start a system integration business, because as a system integrator, you're making a profit on every layer of the stack. You know, you source hardware, you integrate it, or you have it made, and then you sell it at a profit. You buy an Ubidots license for $1 per device, and you sell it at a profit. You buy connectivity, you buy SIM cards, you hire employees, and then provide services. So it's really a very low-hanging fruit kind of opportunity. If you look around again and enter into a specific field that you are an expert in. For me, it's going to be a lot of Ubidots for many more years, I hope. But who knows?
Thanks. Perfect. That is completely true. And I think we don't have ever jump with another question. Can you control LoRaWAN device based on data analysis?
Well, in theory, yes. I think if you have, for instance, a control variable that our events engine uh, changed the value. When we saw the example of triggering a voice call, I don't know if you saw, there's also an option where you can set a variable. So you can do a condition in the events engine that, you know, if something happens, if this anomaly detection score changes above a threshold, then set a variable at a specific number. So, and then that variable could be read by a LoRaWAN device through a downlink mechanism and trigger something in the field. Yeah. So in theory, it's something that you can build.
Nice. Well,
Well, I
that's
have one question,
okay.
maybe a final one, a difficult one, maybe. So you mentioned that we are now building things on top of a lot of technology, like communications, hardware. Yeah. So I think the next one may be the cryptocurrency, right? Because that's kind of the new trend. And you kind of started with helium. I want to see if you have any ideas on how IoT can move on to the blockchain space and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. So to rephrase, maybe it's like ideas in the intersection between crypto and IoT, for example.
Yeah.
Would
Do
that
you
be?
see anything there happening?
Yeah, yeah. I think healthcare. Now we're seeing it now with the COVID. The fact that regulators can issue a fine when the temperature is outside a threshold or was outside a threshold for a specific time because the cold chain was interrupted. Um, is one way to do a fine, but the other way is if you discover that the data was altered, because maybe an IT manager, I'm not saying this is the case always, but you know, maybe an IT manager at a hospital could say, you know, I don't want to be fined, and I'm going to delete those data points where the sensor was outside a threshold. So it opens up the door in terms of audit to do like nasty stuff. And I think blockchain is a great way to prevent this by like putting a hash number with along each data point, so that
Yeah,
each
connect.
hash number is computed based on the chain, so and the entire historical data of
Yeah.
that temperature sensor, for instance. So I think that's a quick one. It could be done with existing Python libraries. I'm sure we don't support it natively, but it could be done through the API. If you add a context, each data point in Ubidots has a context, so you can add like an arbitrary key value pair. For example, hash equals something, and then ensure that if data was deleted, then alerts are raised.
Okay, got it.
Nice. So yeah, I think that is all for the question. I will jump to the quick giveaway. Basically, I already placed the name of all of those who ask questions in a page to randomly select two winners. So I'm going to share quickly my screen here. Share screen. Um, I missed it. Okay, here. Sure. So can you see my screen right now? Let me change the view. Add. Okay, so I have the names of all of those who asked questions. Just to make a quick random picker, I am going to select two winners and pick a random name. So Travis, once again, and Everett, you will receive in some rack swag to your email post. So I will be in contact with you to send those. And yeah, I think that is all for today's sessions. Agus, thank you so much for taking the time and
Thank
share
you.
like a little bit more about your experience and all the things that you have been done in Ubidots, which is awesome. I'm sure that all the things that you shared today will be like a great help for all of those who want to start a business. And yeah, also thanks to everyone who connect to today's sessions, those who are questioned, those who leave their messages and nice thought about everything that Agus shared to us today, and also those who stay during the entire session, like every Friday. You are helping us to build this great community around all the rack wireless product and also our great partners. So yeah, I think that's all. I don't know, Jose, if you want to add something else.
No, thank you all for being here, and see you next week, I guess.
Nice. Agus.
Pleasure, guys. Thank
Thanks
you
a lot.
all. Bye
Okay,
bye.
that's all for
Bye bye.
today. And yeah, just to finish, if you are watching this video later, feel free to leave your question on the comment section. And Agustin, Jose, or and I will be super happy to answer those questions later. We hope to see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are. My best wishes to all of you and happy hacks, folks. Bye bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.